All set. So David O'Reilly is here with us. He is the producer of many wines. He works for Owen Rowe, and it's a pleasure to have you, David, here. We invited you because one of the Gary's Top 10 wines for 2023 is one of your wines. So congratulations. This wine
Thank
is
you.
River Crossings Cabernet Sauvignon 2019. And congratulations again. So David, welcome, and we would love to know something about you. So when did you start with wine?
Well, I have a relatively complicated story because my name is David O'Reilly, and Irish name, and I grew up in Ireland and came to North America with my 11 brothers and sisters to escape a little bit of violence in Northern Ireland where we were living. But my grandfather imported wines from predominantly from France into Ireland. So my father grew up bottling wines that were shipped in barrel into Belfast, into Northern Ireland. So we were actually exposed to wine at a relatively early age. And the wines that I was first introduced to were mostly Bordeaux, so Merlot driven blends, and then certainly some of the Cabernet from Bordeaux. But eventually we ended up in North America, and I was very fortunate to meet my wife in college, and we explored just basically kind of what we wanted to do for our life and how we wanted to raise a family, and we ended up in the Pacific Northwest in a quest to make wine. And I'm really kind of fast forward to a number of years. I founded Owen Rowe Winery, and we have two facilities, one in Eastern Washington in the Yakima Valley, where we do fairly high elevation Bordeaux and Rhone varieties, and then in the Willamette Valley with Pinot Noir. And in 2019, we merged our operation with Vintage Wine Estates. That made me also kind of look to Walla Walla and some of the other regions that are there, because I oversaw the winemaking at Tamarack Winery. And the wine that I was asked to explore was a Bordeaux blend called River Crossings, and I'll definitely explain it is truly crossings because we go back and forth and over myriad rivers. But the 2019 Cabernet Sauvignon is actually blended with 20% Merlot from an old vineyard in the Yakima Valley called Sagemore Vineyard, and so you basically, if you start from the that vineyard, which is pretty far north, you then cross the Yakima River and get into Red Mountain, which is also in the Yakima Valley. Red Mountain is one of the smallest AVAs in the country, and it's intensely hot. And we have about the some of the Cabernet Sauvignon is from that vineyard. And then if you go from Red Mountain over to the Horse Heaven Hills, about 5% of this blend. And it sounds like we're making a very complicated one. We only made about 1,500 cases of this wine. We're not talking about a lot of wine, but there's one of the kind of delights from a winemaker is when you work with these different sources from different vineyards, you can add a little bit of spice here and there. And so this Cabernet Sauvignon is from the Horse Heaven Hills, and it's only 5% of the blend. But again, you have to cross over the Columbia River to get to the Horse Heaven Hills, and then the majority of the wine is from the Walla Walla AVA. So you have to cross back over the river again, and then you have to cross over two more rivers to get to the Walla Walla AVA. And Walla Walla is really interesting. It's the predominant source of the Cabernet for this blend, and this is in an area just over the Oregon border, actually. So the Walla Walla AVA straddles the state line, and so the hillside that we're on is really it's a wonderful hillside for Bordeaux varieties. Several years ago, the Decanter magazine had nominated one of the wines from this hillside that abuts where we get our Cabernet as the top Bordeaux blend in the world,
Wow.
and from the Walla Walla region. And so we include that into this blend. And so we just basically we look at some of the spice components from the cooler sites, and we meld it with some of the Bordeaux varieties from the warmer sites, and we just really create this seamless wine that is, super rich and unctuous. It's if you've been to Eastern Washington, you know that it's very different from Western Washington. We don't get, nearly the rainfall. And these vineyards that we are sourcing the River Crossings Cabernet from are even then they're spread out quite a bit. So they're about 2 hours drive for me to get to all the vineyards, and so there's quite a myriad of different climates involved here, but they
Nice.
contribute to this one wine that is really rich and full-bodied and aromatic and very Bordelais-like.
And I can imagine that the soil is also different in all these parts, and like
I
Red
mean,
Mountains, for example, does it have something to do with more irony soil or something, or it just
it's really interesting because basically in Eastern Washington, most of our soils are volcanic. They all originated, either through, and we have volcanic ash down in the valley floor, but the hillside in Walla Walla is it's volcanic. It's got basalt almost to the surface, so it's very rocky, and so it kind of drives down the yields in the vineyard, and so you get this super concentrated, flavors and tannins. And you'll notice that in this wine, it's really, really inky dark color, full bodied, beautiful silky tannins, and a lot of that is from this one hillside, whereas the Merlot is from a deeper soil area where you have a lot more what they call loess, which is that windswept ash and dust,
right
and they that tends to be slightly higher pH and gives you more of a kind of a fruit profile. But you're right, exactly. Every vineyard is slightly different with
something different?
not only elevation but with soils, as you say.
David, let's go back in time. So, when you and your family came to the west part of the U.S. and you started thinking about wine and everything, why did you choose Washington when in Oregon when Napa was big in the big
You know,
years?
it's a great question because I actually, because I was born in Northern Ireland, I have a UK passport, but I also have a Euro passport because anyone born in the island of Ireland is also a Euro citizen. So I can make wine in any of the great growing regions in the world. And I started making wine in California because it was easy, it was convenient, and obviously that's and I did make some Napa Valley wines, but I was looking to the Pacific Northwest so I could make wines that would stand the test of time. So we get fully ripe flavors in the Pacific Northwest, but then we get this beautiful day and night temperature swings. The fruit retains natural acidity. And so this is a 2019 wine that'll probably improve for at least 10 more years. And, we certainly have never regretted our move from California to the Pacific Northwest because it really is, it's a bit of a, frontier, a new frontier for viticulture, and I think it's one of the most exciting areas for really a myriad of different grape varieties in the New World.
So, Washington has been like lately growing in the spectrum of wines in the world.
Mhm.
What is the future for Washington wines?
I would say, it's really interesting. We are on this course where you're having, early on, Washington was dominated by really one winery, and it was, Chateau Saint Michel, and they've been a great partner with a lot of the schools in the Pacific Northwest. But now you're starting to see multi-generational families come in, and second and third generations, both in the vineyards and in winemaking. And so we're really getting to understand our area. And so I see you're going to see more honed AVAs. We know, hey, this hillside now really should be, planted to more bed, or, some of the later ripening varieties. And I love, what we see now in, like, in Walla Walla Valley. We have the Rocks District where, we're making some Syrah on a pure Riverstone rock, and it looks like Chateauneuf de Pop. And so, we're really now starting to hone in on planting the right grape in the right area. So I think what you're going to see more, out of the Pacific Northwest and out of Washington State is, probably more finely tuned wines, wines with much more expression, and really, I think probably, varietals that will go toe to toe with the best in the world.
That's great. I look forward to keep tasting Washington wines. I really love them, as well as Oregon. So,
Absolutely.
so yes. Do you want to tell something to our customers? Why do they need to keep Washington wines in their radar?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's so funny because I think Washington is certainly, on a spectrum, it's between the, kind of the old world and the new world. Is really perfectly right down the middle, where you get these beautiful rich flavors, but these gorgeous perfumed aromatics and natural acidity. So it's not all power and weight and tannin, and it's not restraint and acidity. It's really kind of like the best of both worlds. So I think if you like wines of balance, if you really, like wines that just, sing and evolve as that bottle is open, Washington wines are the wines for you.
And one last question. What, how would you describe River Crossings Cabernet Sauvignon from 2019? And what will be your favorite pairing dish with this?
So I would say, the wine has a beautiful purity to it. The 2019 vintage was extremely warm, so it's full bodied. It has a lot of presence in it, and given the fact that we have Red Mountain, which is, kind of has a lot of tension and tannin, and the vintage was pretty warm, I'd be looking at pairing this with more of like primary cuts. So, ribeye steaks and prime rib and New York steaks. Really, I love I love the way that these full-bodied, rich Cabernet Sauvignon wines, work with primary cuts. Whereas, if you had more Cabernet Franc in there, I'd be looking at, more braised meats, or, wines that have a little more earthiness to them. That's not what this is. This is a wine that is just, it has an eruption of flavors. You're looking at, something that has a lot of personality. You want to pair it with something with a lot of personality.
Ooh, you're making me hungry. All right. Well, David, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure to meeting you
My pleasure.
virtually. And yeah, so cheers for River Crossings, and we will
Yeah.
keep you updated.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.